Biological metabolism is one of two major systems, circular systems, as set forth by the seminal book Cradle to Cradle. So biological metabolism is one, technical metabolism is the other, and over the next couple of days we'll be talking about both. Inside of the biological metabolism, it's mostly made up of biological processes, and for the purpose of what I'm interested in, biological-based materials for packaging. So the biological metabolism, like I said, is that large circular system that's based largely on natural processes. Who the F indeed? So I'm Brandi Parker, and I am non-binary. I'm in my mid-40s, just became a mother to a baby girl. Thank you. I'm a creative, I'm an artist, I'm a musician, and for the last 20 years I've been working in packaging design. And for the last several now, I've been focused on sustainability. And I think my unique blend of points of view offer kind of a unique set of solutions for sustainability in packaging. You know, thinking obviously creative first, and consumer second. Talking about consumers is a big part of what we deal with in sustainable packaging. And all of you in this room, the beautiful part is you all participate in that big system of consumer packaged goods because you all are also consumers of them. Biomaterials, again, are things that are based from nature. So that could be something that's plant-based. That could be something that's manufactured by bacteria, for example. Anything that comes from the natural world. And why it's important to packaging, to fashion, is because I believe there's a big potential there to increase circularity of these things through, again, natural processes. And because these things are of the earth, then they return safely to the earth. So the importance to not just packaging, but also, as you say, fashion, is huge. And historically, if we look back to the early days of our industrial revolution and we as humans making and purchasing things, they were much more closely related to these biological materials than they are now. So it's our opportunity to kind of harken back to where we came from. For biomaterials to become more mainstream, I think there's a multi-layered approach that needs to happen. I think first and foremost, obviously a good amount of education is required. For a lot of us, you might visit your local coffee shop, you might buy a cup that says compostable on it, then you throw it in the landfill. So while the biological-based materials and the biological metabolism don't necessarily require as much infrastructure as things in the technical metabolism, AKA things like recycling and such, there still is a little infrastructure that's needed. And then, of course, on top of that, just consumer education and how to use them. So for these things to become mainstream, there are some of these efforts that need to change, that need to develop. However, I think largely one of the benefits of bio-based materials and the biological metabolism is some of them don't need any infrastructure and can be readily taken on board and inserted into our usual cycles. Obviously, waste is a big problem with the things that we buy, but also, as I was saying, all of us participate in the consumer culture. So there's a big couple of questions, right? The why and the how. So the why we buy things we buy, obviously we have myriad need states that facilitate this is the reason we buy things. But also we participate in a largely convenience culture, and that shapes our why as well. A lot of people might say we buy too many things. We consume too many things, and that's certainly a piece of it. Something I talk about pretty often is the directly proportional relationship between convenience and waste, and in reverse, the antithetical relationship between convenience and sustainability as a result. So for us to consider change, we have to look largely at our why. And of course, our how in recent history has become more convenient than ever to buy things and have them shipped directly to us. And that's also a big thing that's shaping how much waste is happening and some of the problems that have developed. And of course, there are solutions out there addressing that very thing. And I'm excited to see, what happens with that. But I think it's important not to just focus on the waste problem. I believe they already are, and obviously have the possibility of having a huge impact. After all, biological and bio-based materials, whether they're coming from plants or animals or the like, depending on their origin, might already be helping in carbon capture, for example. The very nature of their existence might be from a manufacturing technique that doesn't actually use a lot more energy necessarily. Or it might follow a natural process that doesn't require a lot of extra anything. So the impact that biological materials can have on climate are myriad and varied. But what I'm most interested in is their relationship to carbon. And as a lot of us in this room are kind of a part of that anti-plastic, petroleum-based plastic movement, we have to be very careful that we don't over-egg into things like deforestation and getting rid of our natural global lungs and the things that help us sequester that carbon, which obviously have that direct effect on climate. Change is important if it happens. So to me, whether that change is incremental or that change is revolutionary, it's important that it happens. You know, I talk to a lot of my clients and advise them on incremental change, especially in the short term, because I believe it can act kind of like a gateway drug to that bigger, more revolutionary change. A lot of people discount the value of incremental change. And I would submit that any change is better than no change. And for us to proceed in this life as humans in developing our relationship with the planet, change is vital to this. And I will say that revolutionary change sometimes doesn't make sense in the short term. And so a lot of the work that I do is helping people understand when it's actually appropriate and relevant, and when it's actually maybe less destructive. Because revolutionary change done too quickly, as we've seen over our evolutionary history, can be destructive if we're not careful with the change that we make. So just to reiterate, change is important if it happens. And I would argue some change is better than no change. Thank you all.